Be honest. Do I look tired? Let me set the scene for you, okay? It's 2 a.m. I finally decide that it's time for me to go to bed. And as I am going to sleep, I think of this idea of how to fix the problem I was having with this video. I dealt with it right then and there, and I've been up since yesterday when I woke up in the morning. I don't really know why I needed to do that. Oh well, but I guess here's the video. So if I sound and look tired, that's why. But anyways, hi, my name is Maddie, and yes, I watched every single movie that Hayden Christensen has been in. And I originally made a video about it, and I hated it so much so that I made this video and stayed up all night to write the script for it. So yes, there is an hour-long video on my hard drive that will never be published. It has the same material that this one has, except hopefully this one will be better. I considered scrapping this video altogether, but I did not watch 40 plus hours of Hayden Christensen in my eyeballs for nothing. So it's gonna happen. Real talk, I actually have to take my B-roll, hold on. So my original video is me spoon feeding you the plot of every single movie, and I hate that. I didn't hate it at the time I was filming it, I hate it now. I also rated them out of 10, which is fine in itself, but my ratings were so inconsistent that it pissed me off. And usually whenever I do things, I usually just roll with it because sometimes I have a reason for things. No. So instead, this video, I'm going to rank them from worst to best. Okay, that's my compromise. So I'll still explain the basic plot, use some of my notes that I took. I took literally so many notes. I don't care, okay? And we're gonna use the most important ones, like maybe 2 sentences or more, okay? And then also I'm giving my thoughts on the movie, of course, because why not? So Hayden Christensen has been in 27 movies, 2 of which I could not watch because they are TV movies, meaning they were filmed to be aired on TV and that's it. So there is no recording of them anywhere. Legally or also legally. So I can't actually rank these 2, but I'll give you the plot description from IMDb instead so that you know that they exist. When her parents and fiancé are lost in the Titanic disaster, young Edwina Winfield, aka Lily Vanderwoodson, shoulders the responsibility of raising her 3 younger siblings and taking over the reins at her father's newspaper. Although she has no shortage of new would-be suitors, the memory of her lost love continues to haunt her, so she focuses instead on providing a stable home for the children rather than marrying. But her forcefulness alienates some of the kids who have plans of their own and rebel against her. Can she hold her fractured family together? And will she ever overcome her ghost to shake herself out of martyrdom and have a real life of her own? I have a feeling she gets a life of her own and finds a new love at the end. But then again, I wouldn't know. She could have died or something. Hayden plays a kid named Teddy. I'm going to assume it's her brother. Mia Farrow's personal life takes a turn for the worse when she engages in a long relationship with Woody Allen. I don't know about you, but I think this movie is about Mia Farrow's relationship with Woody Allen. Hayden plays a kid named Fletcher, unsure of where he fits in the narrative. For the rest of these movies, however, I will be giving you my plot summary, so spoiler warning, because I just flat out say what happens. The Last Man is about this guy named Kurt, who is played by Hayden Christensen. And he fought in a war, an ambiguous war. I actually don't remember if they say which one it is. But anyway, the world is like an apocalypse now because of the war. And also, he has PTSD. And that comes in later because he, I believe, is schizophrenic. In my psychology class, I learned that schizophrenic people don't always like see actual people. It's more like voices. But I'm not here to critique their portrayal of schizophrenia. I am not an expert. Because the world is in like shambles, there's a guy who's like a makeshift prophet and he like tries to recruit people into his doomsday group. They don't really do much, but by the end of the movie they try to escape to the mountains and I'm pretty confident that it ends up not working out. And then Kurt gets like riled up with them because he gets fed propaganda at some point. In the other part of this movie, Kurt gets a job as a mechanic for this one company, and then he falls in love with his boss's daughter. And then through some complications that he has with his boss, he gets sent to jail, but he gets out, and then there's like this huge storm, and he lives in his bunker that he built under his house with Jessica. I think her name's Jessica. Just as a general disclaimer, I'm going to be very honest about my opinion of these movies, and if you disagree with me, that's fine. You could think this movie is the best movie in the world, and I might think it's stupid. You know, who cares? But, like, that's not my problem if you disagree with me, okay? This is just my opinion. It's not that deep. I don't really care. So fun fact, this movie was rated the lowest in my original rankings, and it's safe to say that I still stand by that statement. This movie made me really angry just because I thought it was really dumb. And not like the plot, like the inherent plot, like doomsday apocalypse. I don't think that's stupid. I think the way that they executed this movie was really dumb. I can't really think of like an isolated thing that pissed me off beyond belief, but I think it was just like more of like the things that were happening all together made it really bad to watch. I really wish that I had like a better description to give you, but I don't. I can't think of one. Also, there is a very heinous sex scene in this movie that I was not prepared for at all. And I'm not like anti-sex or anything, but it was a lot for me to handle, okay? And you might be thinking, Maddie, why didn't you just like skip through it? Yeah, see, I would have done that. But I didn't know how long it was going to be, so every time I thought it was over, it was not over. So if I had known that it was going to be like 10 it was not 10 minutes. I'm being over exaggerant. But like if I known it was going to be like 10 minutes, then I would have skipped over it, okay? Also, Kurt has a beard, as in Hayden Christensen has a beard, and I don't like it. I think it looks bad, but he cuts it like halfway through the movie. So, no biggie. And also that's like a me complaint. So, just disregard that one. That's more of a Maddie complaint. That is not like a film critique. Other than that, it was like fine. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life, but it like out of the movies that I had to watch, this one was probably the worst. Street Law is about this guy named John, who is a lawyer. He's also a fighter, very multifaceted, if you will. He had this friend named Lewis as a kid, and he got arrested for some reason. I don't remember why, but Hayden Christensen plays young John, though. Slay, I guess. Lewis comes back into John's life to ruin his life because he wants revenge. And so he does that, and then he makes John fight in an underground, like, fighting ring for money. They end up fighting in the end, and then John kills him. So I actually really didn't hate this movie. I'm very neutral to its existence, so I kind of feel bad that it's so low, but at the same time, like, that's how lists work, you know? Something has to go on the bottom, or near the bottom anyway, and so this is where it ended up being. It's just kind of boring. I think Hayden Christensen is on screen for maybe 30 seconds. Actually, it might be less. But I did watch the whole thing just for it. So, in my defense, I didn't know who he was playing. I was assuming he would pop up at some point. 10 minutes into the movie, by the way, in case you want to watch it. He's in there 10 minutes in, and then he's never seen again. In the old video, I made a really big deal about how he's in it for like 10 seconds, but I don't really care. 90 Minutes in Heaven is about this guy named Don, who is a preacher, and then he gets in a car wreck and goes to heaven for 90 minutes. Can you guess where they got the title of the movie from? He slowly recovers with help from his family and his community around him. This is based on a true story, and the real Don, who this happened to, wrote a book about it. And they mentioned that at the very end. So, fun fact about me, Maddie lore drop, guys. I actually grew up Catholic, and this feels like a movie that they would show us at Sunday school. That's not the reason that it's so low on this list, though. Once again, I'm very neutral to this movie. It was slightly better than Street Law, hence why I put it above Street Law. It was kind of boring, and like that makes me sound like I have a really bad attention span. Like I swear I don't. I really don't. But I mean, you know, like movies can be boring. That's okay. Like that's not a bad thing. One thing I didn't like about this movie is one of his friends and also his wife. They get mad at him for suffering, for being in pain. Yeah. That was truly interesting. It's an interesting message to the movie. I actually don't think that's what there's a deeper meaning there that I don't feel like explaining. Just watch the movie if you really want to. New York, I Love You is a movie that follows 11 different stories, but it's all in the same one. And they're all filmed by different directors, so it's like a big compilation of movies. I only talked about Hayden's, as you might imagine, but the ranking here is for the entire movie, like as a whole. Because if it was just for like his little snippet, bro, that would have been underneath The Last Man. And that's saying a lot, because I have a disdain for that movie. Hayden's story starts with him stealing a wallet and stalking a woman. Great start. He follows her to a bar and he speaks French for some reason. He lore dumps on this girl about his family. His name is Ben. That lady's boyfriend comes in and we find out that he's her teacher. Also, Hayden is a thief. That is his profession. The teacher guy steals his wallet, then gives it back. Hayden gets pissy and kicks a mailbox and a picture of the girl from the bar falls out. Her name is Molly, by the way, played by Rachel Bilson, aka Summer from the OC. Shout out Icon.
We're not from LA, we're from Orange County. Orange County.
We hear her call him from the distance. A few days later, I'm assuming, Hayden is playing basketball with some guys and Molly is watching from behind the fence. They leave together and that's the end of the story. Congratulations, you got another sneak peek at what could have been my video, because I didn't feel like explaining the plot again because I pretty much did the first time around. See, wouldn't that have been treacherous for every single movie? I thought this movie was okay. I don't really have any strong feelings about it either way, but I'd rather watch it than 90 Minutes in Heaven, so I put it above it. Outcast is about Hayden Christensen and Nicolas Cage fighting in the Crusades, like the Crusades. Nicolas Cage decides at the very beginning of the movie that he doesn't want to do that anymore, so he leaves, and then it's like a time jump. Hayden Christensen is in China. I don't know how the fuck he got there, but he got to China, and he helps the new king, who's like 12, and his sister escape their evil brother, who took over the kingdom. This movie actually had a very distinct plot and like story direction, so that's why it's above all the other ones. I thought this movie was really good. I kind of feel bad that it's this low, but at the same time, what are you gonna do? Jumper is about this guy who I can't remember the name of, but he's played by Hayden Christensen, and he can teleport places. Except in this movie, it's called jumping, and he is a jumper. He gets hunted by Samuel L. Jackson, who is a jumper hunter, as you might imagine, and also he falls in love with Rachel Bilson. He also teams up with this British guy who's also a jumper, but he's not really that important. Kristen Stewart also makes a cameo in this movie for some reason, but shout out her. This movie is semi more interesting than Outcast. He also has some family drama that I didn't explain because it's not really that important. Fun fact, this movie is based off a book with the same title. First kill is about this guy. I also don't remember his name, but he's played by Hayden Christensen, and he takes his family on a hunting trip because his son gets bullied at school. Also, my exact line of thinking, during this trip, his son Danny gets kidnapped by this guy who robbed a bank so that the police station in that town could have more money. Hayden has to end up fighting Bruce Willis, who is the main police guy, and then everything gets resolved at the end, because of course it does. There's also a really long chase sequence on four-wheelers, and it goes on for way too long, but that's just me. I remember being interested while I was watching the movie the first time. I actually didn't see the plot twist of the police being involved coming, so that was a good plot twist. Shout out them, I guess. There was this one police guy that was like very sus, so I like kind of had a feeling he was semi-involved. And this is just an aside. This is not involved in the like ranking whatsoever, but Hayden looks really good in this movie. American Heist is about Hayden. I also don't remember his name in this movie, and his brother Frankie, who gets out of jail, and he wants to rob a bank with some of his friends. Hayden doesn't really want to be involved in this, but he gives in because they will kill him and his friend Emily. And by friend, I mean like they like hook up in the movie, so like do that way well. The bank robbery goes pretty good until it doesn't, and then everyone dies except for Hayden because Frankie sacrifices himself for him. In my original review of this movie, I said that the beginning crawled beyond belief, and that's just like not true. I don't think they were just world building, and compared to some of these like movies that were below it, it didn't really crawl. I think I'm being dramatic. I'm not really a huge fan of heist movies, but this one was okay. Also, Hayden plays the piano in this movie, and just keep that in mind. Takers is about a group of guys who rob banks. There are a lot of familiar people in this film that I knew, but it's not really important, and I don't really care. The group is visited by an old friend who got out of jail, and he, surprise, surprise, wants to rob a bank. They don't really want to because they don't trust him, but they do anyway, and it goes pretty well until the guy, whose name is Ghost, the one that got out of jail, he takes the money because he had an ulterior motive all along. Who could have seen that coming? They eventually get the money back, but everyone in the group literally dies except for like 2 people. I like this heist movie a little more than the last one. Hayden wears a really stupid fedora the entire movie. I'm not even joking. And when he dies, spoiler, sorry, he dies at the very end, they lay him with his fedora, in case you were wondering. He also plays the piano in this movie. What is it with him, bank robberies, and playing the piano? I don't know. I don't know who made that connection, but at least he didn't wear fedoras in the last one, so.
For every time I was doomed by a puppet, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Vanishing on 7th Street is about everyone disappearing because of an evil shadow. There's a lone group of survivors, including Hayden and this guy named James. And there's this guy named Paul who works at the AMC. And then there's also this lady named Rosemary. They attempt to survive and find out why the shadow is eating people. That is what happens in this movie. The only survivors at the end are James and this little girl named Brianna who has light up sneakers. She's like maybe on screen for a minute in whole, but she steals the scene every time. I thought the premise of this movie was actually really interesting. The only thing I didn't like was like there was like really no explanation for the shadow thing. Like there was, but I feel like I needed it explained to me because the movie didn't explain it that well, and I'm not the brightest one. Harrison Bergeron is about this guy named Harrison Bergeron, big shocker, and he lives in dystopian America where they make people dumber by wearing like these like weird head things. Harrison's really smart though, so then he gets recruited by the government to work there and control America. And also the president is Eugene Levy. He ends up liking this girl who actually gets pregnant with his child and leaves the government. They also make her stupid. But that's like a whole nother thing. And Hayden plays her son. He's at the very, very end, in case you want to watch this movie and see him in it. He's at the very, very end. As far as Harrison's story goes, he tries to tell America that they're being mind controlled, and nobody really cares. and then he shoots himself at the end in protest. Slay Harrison, I guess. Fun fact, this movie is based off a book of the same title that came out in the 60s. I thought this movie was really interesting, and it made me appreciate the fact that I can think freely, although sometimes it makes me do things like pull an all-nighter to write a YouTube script. But some sacrifices have to be made. Trapped in a Purple Haze is a TV movie that I was actually able to watch. Shout out Tubi, you guys rock. We follow this guy named Max who plays hockey, and he is friends with Hayden. I also do not remember his name in this movie, and they also have a friend named Kate. Max wants to play hockey, as you might imagine, and his mom wants him to become a painter in Paris. You don't really see that one too often. Max ends up meeting this girl named Molly, who's addicted to this thing that sounds like Herobrine, and then Max also gets addicted to Herobrine. He goes to rehab at the end. This movie was like Euphoria before Euphoria. This movie was also like Skins, but in movie form and without any British people. Also, Hayden wears these stupid glasses, and I really hate them. I really do. Other than that, I like this movie. Life as a House is about this guy named George who gets diagnosed with cancer, and he's about to die. He decides to spend his final summer with his son, who is an emo Hayden Christensen, as in like his character is emo. I also don't remember his name. I'm so sorry. I think his name might be Sam. That sounds right, but do not quote me. And then they build a house together. Do you think that's where they got the name of it? There's also some family drama with Hayden's mom and his stepdad. And then George actually ends up getting with his ex-wife, I guess, before he dies. He ends up dying, by the way. I hope that was kind of clear. Also, my favorite vampire, Ian Somerhalder, is in this movie, and he hooks up with someone's mom. This movie is very 2000s, and if you watch it, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. Hayden loses his piercings like halfway through the movie, and it just made me so sad, like an angel lost his wings. Also, his hair is black and blue, which is basically reheating my sister's nachos, except now she's blonde, so I actually can't really say that. Actually doesn't really matter anymore. Anyway, this movie was really good. Virgin Territory is about this guy named Lorenzo, who is played by Hayden Christensen, and he's in love with this princess. Her name is Pampania, I think, but I'll just call her the princess. Somehow, someway, I don't remember how he gets there. He ends up at a convent and pretends to be deaf and mute so that he can hook up with the nuns. That happens for a decent amount of this movie. Then there's this random guy who's after the princess because he wants to marry her, and so she goes to the convent to hide from him, and then she falls in love with Lorenzo. At the very end, that random guy fights Lorenzo, and then Lorenzo and the princess end up getting married. There's also like this random subplot about these group of people that are leaving town, and it's like a random sort of people, and that's literally not important at all. It just also happens in this movie. I don't know, man. This movie is pretty wacky. I was very entertained, though. Like, there were some parts that were pretty funny. Do I think that this movie is objectively better than the ones below it? Probably not. But I had a lot of fun watching it, so that's why I put it up here. I also wanted to give a special shout out to some of Pampania's outfits in this movie. She is in a nun getup for a majority of this movie, but when she's not, dude, she is eating down. So, here are a few of my favorites. Factory Girl follows the story of Edie, a New York socialite who befriends Andy Warhol, like the Andy Warhol. They have a falling out because she hooks up with this musician who is played by Hayden Christensen. I'm not even joking, like on IMDb, it just says musician. So I think it's supposed to remain mysterious, and I don't know enough about pop culture from that time to know who this should be. So if someone wants to tell me, by all means, but yeah, it's not really that important, TBH. They end up breaking up, and then she crashes out afterwards. Fun fact, this movie is based on a true story. Also, Jimmy Fallon is in this movie. Not as Jimmy Fallon, like he plays someone, but you just never really expect to see Jimmy Fallon on your screen in the first 2 seconds of the movie. Another fun fact is that biopics are my favorite genre of movie. So that's why it's so high on this list, because I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I love knowing random facts about people, and this movie is just facts about this woman I've never heard of, but now I know a lot about her. We finally hit the top 10, and these top 10 are probably the most basic movies off these lists that would make it to the top 10, but I don't care. Shattered Glass is about this guy named Stephen Glass, who is a reporter at the New Republic. Throughout this movie, he does some lying, and he also makes a website, and people find out about this and get very upset. He cries, and then he gets fired. He's also a daydreamer. Can you tell that I got tired of writing this script at this point? Fun fact, this movie is based off a true story, and you can read the article for free on Google. I would definitely recommend. Also, Greg Heffley's dad is in this movie. He plays the guy who investigates the fact that Steven lied about everything, pretty much. In the Mouth of Madness is about this guy named John, who's an insurance investigator. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what that is, but I don't really care, TBH. He's sent on a mission to go find this author named Sutter Kane, who went missing. And also, like, the book he just published was making people go bananas. So John also has to find out why that's happened at the same time. John ends up going with this lady, and they go to this weirdo town, and weird things happen. I unironically actually enjoyed this movie a lot, so I made the plot very vague so that you would go watch it yourself. I don't normally enjoy mysteries because they give me too much anxiety, but this one was pretty good, and also I forced myself to watch it, so I kind of had to see it through. But I would definitely recommend. If you're wondering who Hayden Christensen plays in this movie, he plays a little boy on a bike who tries to sell John a newspaper. He says 2 lines in this film. I'm very thankful that this movie was good, because that would not have been worth it. Yay. Quantum Quest, a Cassini space odyssey, which is a mouthful to say, but I digress, is an animated movie about space. Chris Pine voices a hot photon named Dave. He gets a special mission to deliver a message to Cassini, which is this big satellite that transmits, like, information to Earth. On the way there, he runs into the voice of Hayden Christensen. I could not tell you for the life of me what his character is supposed to be, other than Monty Gator from FNAF. And, truly, that's all I think he is, but I don't know. He's probably something spacey, considering everything else in this movie is, but I don't know. Dave is also being hunted by this guy named Void, who is voiced by Mark Hamill, like the Mark Hamill. And then also he has an army of antimatter, and Samuel L. Jackson also voices someone in this movie. Star-studded cast, if you ask me. So more chaos ensues, but eventually he gets to Cassini or whatever. Realistically, this movie should not be this high, but I actually had a lot of fun watching it, even though this movie is probably made for kids, and I don't care. I thought it was really good. I actually learned things about space, and it didn't give me anxiety about, like, the vastness of the world. So a win is a win. Freefall is about this lady named Renee, unfortunately not Rap, who is an investigator, and she gets called in on this mission because a bunch of these planes keep crashing, and they think that she can figure it out because she, like, wrote this book about why planes crash. Also, her son is Hayden Christensen. He's actually in a decent amount of this movie and finds out who is behind all the planes crashing. Shout out Icon. Once again, mysteries give me anxiety, but this one wasn't that bad, so I actually really, enjoyed the fact that I wasn't concerned about what was going to happen to these fictional characters. Fun fact, this was one of the movies that I actually wasn't able to watch, but then, right as I was about to be done with watching all the movies, I checked it again, and some lovely soul uploaded it onto not YouTube. They did not upload it onto YouTube, because I don't know what YouTube is. This movie also reminded me that planes before 9/11 existed. Awake is about this guy named Clay, played by Hayden Christensen. He gets married to Jessica Alba, and then he also has this, heart condition, so he gets a heart transplant, except when he's getting said heart transplant, the anesthesia, hello, can I speak today? You know what, this is a hard word to say, I'm skipping it. It doesn't work all the way, so, physically, he's asleep, but his mind is awake, so he can, mentally feel what's happening, I think. I don't know. And the point of the movie is that there's these people that are trying to kill him, and he is, a ghost for some of the movie, and he tries to figure out how to get out of that scenario. Also, his dad died wearing, a Santa Claus costume or something. I don't know if that's true, but it's something along those lines, and it's not really important, but it's something I remember and thought it would be a fun detail to add. This movie had a really good plot twist that anyone can see coming if you were paying good enough attention. I still thought it was great and would definitely rewatch. We finally made it to the top 5. Thought we were going to get here. Not me. I've been recording for 41 minutes. When I wrote that we made it to the top 5, it was 6 a.m. So it's 11:52 at the moment. Feeling great. Little Italy is about Emma Roberts and Hayden Christensen reuniting in Little Italy in Canada. There's a lot of Little Italys that exist in the world, so I had to make sure it was the right one. Their families own rival pizza places. They used to own one. There was some drama and there was some beef, and so now they have 2 separate ones. Hayden and Emma fall in love, and then they have a falling out, and then they have to go through a pizza making competition, and then they make up at the airport security, and then at the very end they open a pizza restaurant together. The first time I heard about this movie was, I think Drew Gooden did a video on it. I don't remember, but it was like a long time ago. And by a long time ago, it was like probably 4 years ago. That was the first time I heard about it, but it was a lot better than I remember him saying it was. Fun fact, this was the very first movie that I watched when making this whole video thing, and I forced my sister to watch it with me. And I don't think she liked it as much as I did, but that's okay. You know, people have different tastes, and clearly she didn't want to see a hot Hayden Christensen. This is also the only movie that I had fully edited for my original video. The only complaint I have about this movie is that Hayden and Emma should not be dating because their grandparents get engaged in the film. I mean, there's no blood relation, but it's still kind of gross, you know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of weird. Strike is a movie about a bunch of girls who are at this boarding school and they get to some crazy hijinks. But most importantly is that they do not like the idea of boys being at their boarding school. So like their school is gonna do like a merge with like a boys boarding school, and they don't want that to happen. There's this dance that happens, and then Kirsten Dunst, who is like the main star of the movie, and then there's also the girl from She's All That. But Kirsten Dunst sabotages the dance that they have so that they won't make the boys go. And then at the very end, they convince the principal not to do the merge. Hayden is one of the boys at the boarding school, and at the dance, he dances with this one girl who is one of the main girls. I also don't like his haircut. Another favorite genre of mine is chick flicks. This is a chick flick, hence why it is so high on this list. I loved it so much. I'm very sad that I hadn't seen it sooner in my life. It's not on streaming, in case anyone was wondering. Do with that information what you will. Also, can we discuss why this movie has 3 titles? Which one is it? I don't know. Virgin Suicides is about the Lisbon sisters, Therese, Mary, Bonnie, Lux, and Cecilia. We get this info from these boys who are obsessed with them, and they kind of just infoed them on their lives to us. As the title suggests, they all end up dying, but some stuff happens before that, like Homecoming. Homecoming happens, and Hayden Christensen is Therese's date to Homecoming. So he says like maybe 3 lines in this movie. Fun fact, this movie is based off a book with the same title, which I've read before. I think the book is better, but I do like this film as well. I've also seen this movie before this whole project, so I am a little biased because I just like this movie in general, but that's okay. This is my list. I don't care. I didn't remember Hayden Christensen being in this movie, and that's because he's not really in it. Now, if you have a developed prefrontal cortex, then you might know what 2 movies are missing from this list. And if you know anything about me, if you've seen any of my other videos, I'm obsessed with Star Wars, okay? It's like my favorite thing. Right now, I have a very bad hyperfixation problem. These 2 movies were always going to be top 2. Maybe you can disregard them just because I'm like super biased. So then just disregard these 2 if you want. And then the rest would be like my top whatever. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, has a lot of lore and a backstory. I will not be giving you the shortened version like I've been doing the rest of the time because I already filmed all of the stuff that I was talking about, and I actually didn't mind it, so I'm gonna play it for you. You're welcome. This movie picks up 10 years after the events of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Important details from that movie are that 2 Jedi, Obi-Wan and his Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, who died at the end, Jar Jar Binks, a Gungan from Naboo, and 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker helped Queen Padme Amidala of Naboo from an attack by the Trade Federation. At the very end, Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to train Anakin Skywalker because Qui-Gon told him to. Back to this film, Padme is now a senator representing Naboo in the Republic Senate, and she is on her way to Coruscant to vote on the Military Creation Act, aka if the Republic should make an army, because right now they only have Jedi. After landing, however, the ship blows up and the Padme decoy on the ship is dead. The Council is aware of this assassination attempt against her, so Chancellor Palpatine suggests that she be under the protection of a Jedi and suggests Obi-Wan Kenobi, because she knows it. Obi-Wan shows up with a now 19-year-old Anakin Skywalker. According to Anakin, he hasn't stopped thinking about Padme for 10 years because he's in love with her. Me too. Anakin insists that they will figure out who planned the attack against her, even though Obi-Wan says it's not part of their job. That night, Padme is almost killed again. Anakin and Obi-Wan track down the person who did it. She's then shot by a man in a jetpack from above, and she dies. Anakin and Obi-Wan meet with the Jedi Council, consisting of Yoda, Mace Windu, and some other people, and they send Obi-Wan to find the bounty hunter who shot the dart, and Anakin to escort Padme back to Naboo. In Obi-Wan's plot, he tracks the dart to a planet called Kamino and finds out that there's been an order made for a clone army for the Republic. Obi-Wan meets a bounty hunter named Jango Fett. Obi-Wan follows Jango Fett to a planet called Geonosis, and he finds out that Viceroy Gunray has sent the attack on Padme because of the Trade Federation beef from last movie. Also, a former Jedi, Count Dooku, is in cahoots with these people. More on that later. We'll get back to him soon. In Anakin's plot, he escorts Padme back to Naboo while very bluntly saying he's in love with her. She rejects him loads of times, but in the lake scene, she does kiss him and then regrets it. One night, Anakin has a dream that his mother is dying, so he hits pose 28 and decides he needs to go save her. Padme accompanies him to his home planet of Tatooine. Also, some important context, Anakin and his mother were slaves, but Qui-Gon got Anakin out of slavery last movie. There, Anakin discovers that his mother was sold to some dude who then married her. Anakin meets his stepbrother and father and finds out that Tusken Raiders had kidnapped his mother. He finds her in a village somewhere on Tatooine, and she dies in his arms. Because of this, Anakin is very upset with the Tuskens and slaughters the entire village. To each their own. He returns to his family and tells Padme that he killed everyone, and she appears to be unfazed. Interesting. Anakin and Padme receive a message from Obi-Wan who needs help, and they send it to the Jedi Council. Anakin and Padme go to help Obi-Wan, but through some complications in a droid factory, get captured by Jango Fett. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme are then put in an arena with big creatures to die. Also important, right before being sent into the arena, Padme tells Anakin she loves him. Get a backbone, girl. During this arena battle, the Jedi Council and others finally get there and help them fight off droids and those creatures from earlier. They are low-key losing, but then Yoda shows up with the clone army. Anakin and Obi-Wan follow Count Dooku, and they both get their shit rocked. Obi-Wan is injured, and Anakin loses half an arm. Yoda shows up and fights Dooku, but Dooku gets away. Padme and Anakin get married secretly at the very end. Now, this movie absolutely rocks. I know that this is not everyone's favorite in the Star Wars fandom, but I don't care. I don't think you know how to have fun. Yes, number 1 is Revenge of the Sith. It should have been regardless of personal bias, just because it's an amazing movie. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, continues from last movie. We start off a few years after last movie, and we are near the end of the Clone War. If you're wondering what the Clone War is, I'm not going to explain it to you. Watch the show, it's really good. Anakin and Obi-Wan are rescuing Chancellor Palpatine because he got kidnapped by Count Dooku. Obi-Wan gets his shit rocked by Dooku again, and Anakin kills Dooku because Palpatine tells him to. He regrets this because it's not the Jedi way. Palpatine, Anakin, and Obi-Wan try to escape and run into General Grievous, who tries to kill them. He escapes, which sets up Obi-Wan's plot of this movie. They all return to Coruscant, and Padme and Anakin reunite, and Padme reveals that she is pregnant. I wonder if that'll be important later. Also, the Republic Senate is low-key going to shit, and the Jedi Council is very concerned about this. Palpatine makes Anakin his personal representative in the Jedi Council, but the council doesn't make him a Jedi Master, which he gets really upset about because he's a whiny pissy baby. They also send Obi-Wan to find and kill General Grievous, which Anakin is also mad about because he wanted to do that. During all of this, Anakin is also having dreams that Padme will die during childbirth. Problematic. The council also asks him to spy on Palpatine. Palpatine spends a suspicious amount of time with Anakin, in my opinion, and tells him about this Sith Lord that allegedly saved people from dying. Anakin buys this like it's a fact, and is now interested in the dark side. Anakin later finds out that Palpatine is the Sith Lord that the Jedi have been looking for since last movie, so he tells Mace Windu, who goes to kill Palpatine and almost does, but then Anakin decides that he really needs to save Padme, so he helps Palpatine and Mace Windu dies. Rip Diva. Now Anakin is Palpatine's apprentice and goes by Darth Vader. He goes off on some solo missions, more on that later. Palpatine is taking care of the Senate business and tells them that the Jedi Order has tried to take over the Senate. He also issues Order 66 to all the clones, which is to kill all the Jedi. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan found and defeated General Grievous easy peasy, then he almost dies to Order 66, but he survives because he's a main character in this movie. He meets up with Yoda, who also survived because he's Yoda, and they go to the Jedi Temple to find out what happened. Obi-Wan finds out about Anakin and all his drama and goes to Padme for help. Padme doesn't believe anything that he says, but gets a little paranoid, so she decides to go see Anakin on Mustafar. Obi-Wan snuck on board. When she gets there, Anakin tells her his plan to overthrow Palpatine and rule the galaxy. She says, absolutely not, and Obi-Wan reveals himself, making Anakin assume that she brought him there. He then uses the Force to choke out his pregnant wife. Then we get the best fight scene in all of cinema between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Anakin gets his shit rocked and loses his legs and his only good arm. Also, he gets set on fire. Tough break. Obi-Wan goes back and Padme is now delivering her baby because she lost her will to live and is dying. She has twins and names them Luke and Leia. Shout out icons. Meanwhile, Palpatine and gang found Anakin and they make him all better by making him a cyborg and giving him a really cool outfit. He asks for Padme and Palpatine informs him that he killed her. Yoda splits up the kids and sends Obi-Wan to a cave to talk to dead people. The end. I low-key forgot to rate this movie, but I think that regardless of whether or not you like Star Wars, you'll like it. It's a great movie. Hi, I'm back. I have a list of things that I actually forgot to say, and I would have just voice recorded it and threw it in there, but I decided to do this instead. So the first thing I have is that there is a scene where Emma Roberts looks really good in Little Italy, and I will put the photo here. Yeah, she looks stunning, and I just thought that I had to mention that. And then also, while I was on Pinterest yesterday, I saw this photo of Hayden Christensen from Factory Girl. It's a very interesting photo. I'll put the photo here. And one of the comments asked what he was doing and what movie it was from, and then somebody replied with, he's doing no things. And I just thought that was really funny. And I was like, I have to put that in somewhere. I don't know where, but I was like, I need to talk about this. So shout out to that person who made that comment. It's been living rent-free in my head ever since I saw it yesterday. Also, in my original video, I did this thing at the end where I reviewed an episode of Goosebumps that he was in, because the whole video is about movies that he's in, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I did an episode of Goosebumps that he was in for no reason? I don't know why I thought it was funny, but Regardless, I reviewed an episode of Goosebumps, and so I thought I'd include it in here so that you guys know that I had to watch that Goosebumps episode too. Yeah, so I'll insert that here. Night of the Living Dummy Part 3 is about an evil dummy that comes to life. Who could have seen that coming? One of our main characters, Trina, wakes up in the middle of the night and sees someone walking in her house. She follows them up to the attic and hears a puppet saying her name. She thinks it's her brother Daniel, but it ends up being her dad. He shows them the new dummy that he got, and his name is Slappy. Their mom comes up and tells them their cousin Zane is visiting tomorrow. Unfortunately, not Malik. They don't like Zane. Zane is a little Hayden, by the way. The next morning, little Hayden arrives and he is a photographer. Little Hayden sees Slappy and is scared shitless of dummies. That night, little Hayden is going to sleep and a dummy appears in his room and he thinks he's going to die. The parents yell at Trina and Daniel, but they swear it wasn't them. The dad tries to teach little Hayden to like dummies, but then Slappy kicks him. They all think he's crazy now. The mom makes a big dinner for everyone, but when they get there, it's all ruined. They blame Trina and Daniel and tell them that they can't go to camp that summer. That night, Trina wakes up to noises in the attic and finds Daniel there on stakeout. They see little Hayden come in and realize he's been moving around the dummies to get Trina and Daniel in trouble. They chase him down the stairs, then Slappy gets up and breathes life into another dummy to scare all the kids or something like that. The next day, the parents decide to go out that night, so the kids are all alone. Trina sees dummies on the ceiling fan and blames little Hayden. He says it's not him. Slappy comes to life and starts chasing the children. They lock Slappy back in his box and drop it down a well. As Trina's going to bed, Slappy appears in her room and he goes through the vent. He sneaks into little Hayden's room and breathes the evil stuff into him. He turns little Hayden into a dummy. Slappy gets his shit rocked by that other dummy, the other alive one, because Trina reminds him that he's part of the family. Slappy is hanging off the roof and gets struck by lightning and explodes. Little Hayden becomes a boy again. He is going home the next day, so Trina and Daniel wave goodbye, and little Hayden's head does a 360 spin, and he tells them that he'll see them real soon. Thank you for listening to me talk about Hayden Christensen for however long this video ends up being. I'm very glad that I did have this idea, maybe not at 2 a.m., but life happens, just so that I could repurpose this video, because I really didn't want to have to scrap 40 hours worth of my life, you know. I mostly had a great time doing all that, but I got to generate content out of it, so it's all okay in the end. Imagine I'm Taylor Swift, and this is my Tortured Poets department. At the very end of my video, I had this thing where I was like, oh, the lesson I learned was nothing, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? But I'm here to say I did learn one thing, and it's that you should never pull a random all-nighter to make a YouTube video script that has no deadline. I wrote that at 7 a.m. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I promise that I'll make actual videos coming up. I'll be back. Bye-bye.